This is the voice of the Report of the Week, signing on. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone listening. This is VORW Radio International, the voice of the Report of the Week. It is Thursday, the 13th of December, 2018. You also may be listening to this broadcast on Friday, the 14th, Saturday, the 15th, or Sunday, the 16th of December, 2018. Thank you for tuning in to VORW Radio International. This is a weekly light entertainment program, which features a mixture of my talk and commentary, as well as listener-requested music. VORW Radio International goes out to you on TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud, and on the international shortwave frequencies of 9955 kHz, 9395, 7780, 7730, 7570, 5950, 5850, and 4840 kHz. No matter how you're listening, when you're listening, or where you're listening from, I wish you good reception conditions, and I hope you enjoy this broadcast. Hello to all of you tuned in, and a happy early mid-December. I hope this month has been going well for you so far. For me, this week has been a better one than the week beforehand, and the week before that. I am pleased to say that it has been a better one, and I'm thankful for that. I'm glad. So, that's good. I'm glad that it's been a better one. I mean, the terrible anxiety that I had it lingered on and on and on. It didn't go away. But this week, thankfully, it's dissipated for the most part, so that's good. I'm thankful for that. No terrible migraines, which is good. So things have leveled out after a little rough patch. For me, things, how I'm feeling, it's certainly leveled out, and for that I am very thankful. So I hope things are going well for you. Hopefully, if this month has been starting out on a little bit of a rough patch, it started out on the wrong foot. Hopefully things have improved for you, and if not, we still have half of the month to go. I know that getting toward the end of the month, we get into the holiday season, Christmas time, New Year, and everything in between. I'm going to talk about this more in later shows, because I think it'll be more relevant then. But like Thanksgiving, I remember someone kind of called me out on it, and I could understand why, where they were saying that you were being too harsh on Thanksgiving. And you have to keep this in mind when it comes down to my view of the holidays. I personally do not hate the holidays at all. I think that the atmosphere and true meaning, keep those words in mind, true meaning, behind the holidays is a wonderful thing, and it's nice to see. But a lot of the time, things get lost, time and time again, in all of the craziness that surrounds it. I'm not going to go on about it this week. I don't feel like going on a tirade about that this week. All I'll tell you is this. When it comes down to the holiday season, just have a good one. That's all that I can tell you. But this week I've been thinking about a few things. Today's show is going to feature some miscellaneous listener requests in regards to topics. I didn't get a ton last week, but that makes sense because I didn't ask for any, so that's completely fine. I'll say it first and foremost, if you want to submit a topic for discussion, you can dictate this program. Send me a topic. What do you want to hear me talk about? What do you want to hear me share my thoughts about? I can't guarantee that I will go ahead and share my thoughts on whatever the topic you suggest might be, should it be too controversial or something that I really can't give any concise, articulate view in regards to. But, look, there is no harm in this case in going and, just throwing that suggestion out there. You want to do it, just go for it. Send me an email, vorwinfo@gmail.com. That's vorwinfo@gmail.com. Just suggest it, and who knows. And on one other note before I get into the talk. I'm just going to get this out of the way early this time around. Of course, this broadcast is listener funded, so I'll make the plea a little earlier than I usually do in each program. So I'm trying to be preemptive here, and I'm trying to raise funds for January's broadcasts a little bit early. So far, I busted open the books before I picked up the microphone. We are 10% of the way there. To put it more bluntly, we would need about 45, I think it was around 45 people to donate $20 each. And then we're good to go, the bills are paid, and we'll see where we stand for February. So that's where the number stands. If you want to support this broadcast, you can do so via PayPal to VORWINFO@gmail.com. Again, via PayPal to VORWINFO@gmail.com. Every bit helps, and it certainly adds up. Whether it all comes in one day or 1 week or not, every single bit adds up. 45 sounds like a big number, but alright, 5 people here, 10 people there, 20 people there. Already, you're just down to 10 people that are needed after that. You can take a number like that, cut it down very, very quickly. Every single person matters, and every single bit helps. On one final note, one good way to really help support this broadcast that is mutually beneficial is to consider advertising on this show. I'm very broad when it comes down to advertising. If you have a message you want to get out there, you have something that you want to promote, whether that be a business, large or small, perhaps you want to advertise a product, service, heck, even if you have an online presence, I'll just have to see what you do, but go ahead, pitch the idea to me. It's a way that's mutually beneficial because it helps you out, and it helps this show out too. So if you want to consider getting your message out there, send me an email, VORWINFO@gmail.com. I'm certainly very negotiable, and I'll be happy to have that conversation with you, and hopefully we can work something out. We've got a few people on board and a few others that I'm just, going back and forth with, but it'd be great to have you on board. Certainly will get your message out there to thousands of listeners. Okay, first topic that I want to discuss, because it's one of those things, now I lose track of time. Okay, I do. That's just the way that it is. That's the nature of the beast. Where I lose track of time. This isn't even what I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it for the heck of it. Isn't time an amazing thing? It's an incredible thing. And it really is true what they say, which mathematically speaking, right? The older that you get, the faster time is perceived. And that's true. Now it's fascinating because studies have shown that the average, because I think some people misinterpret that. It's not like day-to-day life is going to go any faster once you're older. That's not how it's going to be, or how it is. Because I remember it was surveyed and studied that the average day-to-day life in kids and senior citizens, a 24-hour block of time is perceived at relatively the exact same length. It's not like 24 hours is going to seem like 5 minutes. You're going to be scratching your head thinking, where the heck did the time go? It's not going to be like that. It's longer expanses of time because fewer massive milestones happen as you get older, and also just mathematically speaking, right? Every day that you live, that has another day behind you. So it ends up where one day is just a smaller and smaller and smaller percentage of your overall existence. So for instance, when you were 10 years old, right, 1 year is 10% of your entire life at that point. When you're 20 years old, now 1 year is 5% of your life. And it just gets smaller and smaller. So that's why they do say that time kind of goes faster as you get older. It's just because it's the mathematical truth, and it's really in regards to those milestone benchmark events. But either way, it is funny though. Time has accelerated for me, I would say, since maybe 2014, I would go as far back as, where, I mean, up until then it seemed like it was fast. But now I look back and, 2014, it seems so recent to me, it just seems like it was just yesterday. I mean, I think back to a year ago, it's not, I don't feel any different. I don't feel like anything's changed. And, I think back to a few months ago, and, it just nothing really feels like it's changed. I feel the same, and I think, wow, I can't believe it's already getting so close to 2019. And of course, things have changed tremendously in my life, but just because some things have changed doesn't necessarily mean you really feel that change. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It all comes down to the specific change that is at hand. But anyway, I digress. I was thinking about time because I was going through a few old files from around 2013, 2014, and some of these files were some old shortwave radio recordings that I made back then. And, it's funny, I was kind of listening to them because back then I still am, a very avid shortwave listener, and I would just scan around, and if I heard something that I liked, I would just start recording it. And I ended up getting a collection of close to 1,000 recordings from then of all different stations. And look, 2014 wasn't very far back, but in the world of shortwave radio, I do look back upon 2014, and it's funny. It's just 4 years ago, and you can say so much has changed, and so little has changed, yet it doesn't really feel like it's been 4 years. But it is crazy, because sometimes I look back at those recordings, and I think, wow, some programs have just really changed so immensely. A lot of the stations I recorded don't even exist anymore. Right, some of my favorite stations are gone from the medium, sadly. Radio Australia, once such a prolific shortwave station, ceases to exist. It may never come back. Now, a few people did forward me an article. They were saying that the Labour Party in Australia said that they're going to bring shortwave back, and I like what I see. I like the sound of that. Of course, I'm not an Australian citizen. I can't vote for them. But the one thing that I just remain cautious of is all I can say is that I hope that just isn't a false campaign promise to try to get people to vote for them. If they truly are sincere, and if they do get elected, and they walk the walk, I will be beyond pleased. And I think that they made the right decision. But until then, and until number one, they get elected, and number two, they follow through on what they said, we'll just have to wait and see. But until then, I mean, Radio Australia is gone. Voice of Russia, they're gone. Radio Serbia is gone. Radio Canada is gone. Radio Netherlands is gone. Voice of America got rid of their English service to Asia. Vatican Radio got rid of theirs. Radio Veritas Asia, gone. Dozens of clandestine stations are gone, with a few that popped up to replace them. Many good programs on the U.S. domestic shortwave stations have gone. And I kind of look back upon those days wistfully. But, what can you do? Look, what's gone is gone. We just have to be grateful and thankful for what still exists and for what is still going. Some people have asked me the question, and I just want to talk about this for a little bit. Why do you still use the medium of shortwave radio? Like, I know this broadcast goes out many, many ways, right? It goes out online, it goes out on TuneIn, on the SoundCloud, goes out on a few other apps and services, and yes, it goes out on shortwave radio. And you might say, you make a big whole deal out of it, but why? I mean, a number of people don't even know what shortwave is, but you might hear me talk about it on and on and on, right? So I'll give you a very brief rundown. So here's what it comes down to. Shortwave radio is a broadcast medium It sounds like similar to AM radio, okay? That's how you can think of it. It sounds like AM radio, and it allows radio signals to travel for thousands of miles, right? So like AM radio can travel for anywhere from a couple dozen to a couple hundred miles. FM radio maybe a couple dozen miles at most. Shortwave, you can get a signal from one end of a continent to another loud and clear if you're on the right transmitter and frequency. And because of that enormous range, and because a broadcast can be transmitted from a station thousands of miles away from the target area, shortwave radio is very heavily utilized, even to this day, in developing countries where they may be plagued by government censorship, or there may be such a level of poverty that the local infrastructure isn't there, the internet isn't there, most people can't use it or can't afford it, television, with what electricity, and the local media is either government controlled or is not there at all. So what do people listen to then? Well, that's why shortwave radio is important. It's a way that people can tune into broadcasts that are being transmitted thousands of miles away, where the facilities can be maintained and upkept in a safe and efficient manner, and they can be heard with perfect clarity in the target area. So you have many news stations that broadcast to developing, war-torn dictatorships. You have the BBC, the Voice of America, Radio France, DW. You have government broadcasters, of course, China Radio, Radio Romania International, KBS World Radio, the NHK from Japan, Voice of Korea from North Korea, and so on and so forth. And you have religious broadcasters, you have propaganda stations, you have clandestine stations, religious broadcasters, and entertainment programs. And shortwave radio has always been an interest of mine for a good number of years now. And it has always been a dream of mine to utilize this medium and try and reach an audience through this medium that I had always been fascinated with, right? So that had always been a dream of mine. And I remember in 2014, because I was a very big shortwave listener then. I didn't broadcast back then, but I was a very big listener. And I remember thinking, I wish I had the ability to broadcast a show, just, some commentary and some music, and just get it out there to the shortwave audience. But I thought that I would never have the resources to actually go out and do it. So it was like a pipe dream, it was something that I really wanted to do. I thought it was never going to happen. And finally, in 2015, I was able to find a deal with a shortwave station, WBCQ, and I was able to get on one of their transmitters for 2 hours a week. I think it was every Tuesday and Thursday from 11 p.m. to midnight. And it was from that point forward that I was hooked. It was such an incredible experience to be able to do my show, to record it, get it to the station, have them transmit it, and be able to, use these online shortwave radios. I can monitor the signal, and I can see it being transmitted all across eastern North America. And I can check a receiver in New Jersey, and I can hear my voice, and I can check a receiver in Michigan, hear my voice, check a receiver down in Georgia, hear my broadcast, and even pull out my own radio and listen in. And it was just so incredible to see the coverage, be able to use this medium to get my show out, and then have people write in and let me know they were hearing the show, get their feedback, and reach an audience through this broadcast medium. One thing that I need to tell you, because coming up actually around the 20th of December will probably mark when I was able to get this show full-time on the air, but, I've been on and off for about 4 years now. You might say, well, that's all fun, and, it sounds cool, and it, sounds like a nice story, but let's be realistic, right? How many people are you actually reaching with shortwave radio. And I'll tell you this, many more than I ever anticipated to. That's the honest truth. I really didn't know how many people tuned in to shortwave radio here in the US and Canada, and in North America especially. But the shortwave audience, it isn't, look, let's be realistic, it isn't as large as what it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but it is something that still exists. And definitely numbers, very likely in the hundreds of thousands, but if you wanted to be really conservative, you can say tens of thousands, but I'm leaning more toward the hundreds of thousands still, because you have to realize there are close to 900,000 amateur radio operators in the US alone. You know, those individuals are enthralled enough in the medium to get a license and just know the ins and outs of it. And granted, not all of them use shortwave, but still, that's a good number right there. So, including that with all the people who have old radios, emergency radios, shortwave radio, are in very rural, remote locations. You know, that number does build up more than what I even predicted a few months ago. But anyway, I digress. Because the shortwave audience in North America is bigger than I ever anticipated, and a good way to prove it is every single week I do this show, and I hear from new people week after week after week. Now again, I've been doing this for 4 years straight, and I'm still hearing from just new shortwave listeners every single week. If, like, some people they'll get really pessimistic, and they'll say only 300 people. That's a load of you-know-what, by the way. But they'll say that only 300 people in the US still listen to shortwave, and they weren't saying that facetiously either, they were serious. Then where are all these people coming from? Are they just... Where? Where are they all coming from? So, the shortwave audience is much larger than people still expect it to be, and because so many people are being reached by this medium, that gives me that motivation to keep these broadcasts going, because I know that there is still an audience out there, a vast audience that's growing by the week, that's being reached, and it gives me that motivation to keep this show going and do what I have to do to keep it going. But the one thing that I want all of you to remember, and before anything else, I'll get this off my chest. Shortwave is something that I think you should look into. I think having a radio, even if you're just going to use it for emergencies, like during a hurricane or earthquake or whatever, you know, I think having a radio on hand is an extremely important thing. Personally, I think it would be great if you use it to listen to my show and other international broadcasts, but I really recommend you look into it. You want to get a radio to listen in on, send me an email, vorwinfo@gmail.com. I'll give you just the ins and outs of some good shortwave radios to look into, my personal recommendations, and I'll help you out. So, you know, if you're kind of lost, I'll help you out, no worries there. But anyway, this whole thing didn't happen overnight. This broadcast, like any other project, and this is how you can tie it in, like any other project out there, the way it became what it is through persistence. And if you're doing something, if you're working on something, if you have that passion for it, and that dedication, and your morale is doing pretty good, even if it's wavering, that's fine. Persistence is key. And I know sometimes that can be tough, but I want to give you an example. This broadcast medium, I mean, it's really like anything else. I'm going to make an analogy that's going to sound odd at first, but I think you'll see what I mean. Some people will be quick to criticize if you mention investing in shortwave radio and doing a show over it, because they'll say, the first thing that comes into people's heads is they'll say, yeah, but nobody listens to shortwave radio. Well, if that's the case, let's just play devil's advocate, right? If nobody listens to shortwave radio, well, a lot of people use YouTube, right? Billions of people do. So if billions of people use YouTube, and we can confirm that, then why don't I go ahead, make a brand new YouTube channel, don't publicize it, don't promote it, just upload the show there, and it'll be a smash hit, right? It'll get at least 1 million views because billions of people use YouTube, right? So that's easy. If so many people use it, then it'll be easy to get out on that platform, right? Yeah. I think many, 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 many people beg to differ in regards to that. So that line of logic does not work. As a matter of fact, shortwave radio has an audience, and it's actually kind of deprived of good content, as many will say. So if you have a show that you want to do, I really recommend you look into buying some airtime for yourself, because I know that there will be many listeners out there that will appreciate it. But here's what it comes down to. When I first started this show, this didn't happen overnight. It's not like I suddenly bought the airtime and all of a sudden 200 reception reports came in after the first minute of the show. That's not how it is. And like any endeavor, whether you're doing a radio show, like in my case, or whether you're trying to do something with YouTube, or you're trying to make something for yourself with art or music or anything in the world of business, everyone knows that when you first get your foot in the door, 9.9 times out of 10, no one's really going to see you. No one's really going to know about you. And it's going to take some time to establish yourself. And with that comes persistence and diligence. I remember when I first was doing this broadcast full-time, starting in late 2016, I was doing this weekly finally. Those first few broadcasts that I were doing weren't getting a ton of feedback. I remember the very first broadcast that I did full-time, and it hasn't stopped since then. Propagation was really poor, and the signal that I thought was going to cover much of North America was only being received in a tiny little part of the, maybe around the Washington, D.C. area, and that's about it. Disappointing? Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't give up. I kept going. I went on to the next week. Reception still wasn't the best, but I didn't give up. I kept going. The third week, the fourth week, coverage was still not very satisfactory, but I didn't give up. I continued these broadcasts. I continued pushing forward, moving onward with whatever resources I had. I was trying to promote the show, get the word out, and I didn't waver. And sure enough, by the fifth week of broadcasting, more listener reports started coming in. And maybe by then a schedule was starting to be established. People were starting to tune in, even if they weren't letting me know. But some reception reports were starting to come in. Then by the sixth week, the seventh week, donations started following as well. And whatever deficit was there from the initial broadcasts was starting to be made up. From there I was able to expand to a low-power transmitter in Europe and start growing the listening base abroad. And then from there I was able to continue maintaining a schedule, move on and try and progress it, be able to move to better quality transmitters in the US, get additional hours, keep going. And yes, changes occur, but I didn't give up. I kept it going, and where does the show stand now? Of course, we always have our ups and downs financially, but this broadcast goes out now on many frequencies. It goes out 15 hours every single week to all of North America, South America, Europe, and it is received in areas far beyond that regularly. I realize now this was one of my dreams in life, something that I thought would never be accomplishable, but here it is, and it's incredible to think about. But this never would have been possible, and it never would have happened if I gave up after the second or third show when the overall result was looking disappointing at first, and coverage wasn't the best, and there weren't a ton of listeners at all. Had I given up there, had I thrown in the towel, this never would have happened. What I'm trying to get at, if you're doing something, it could be anything. Do not give up. It's one thing if you're absolutely miserable and you hate what it is that you're doing, you can find a way to be able to put some bread on the table through a better way, and it's a detriment physically or mentally, and it's just really terrible for your quality of life, then forget about it. Just throw in the towel then. But if it's something that you enjoy doing, that you do have that passion and that drive for, please don't give up. Keep it going, because trust me when I say it, you never know what the outcome is going to be and the future, what it will hold. You don't know. The only thing you know for certain is that you give up now, the future is set in stone. But if you keep pushing forward, all I can tell you is that you never know what is going to happen. I never thought that this radio show, as obscure a thing that it might be, shortwave radio, I never thought that it would get to where it is today, and it's incredible to look back upon, but had I given up, it never would have been this way. Thank you for putting up with me, dear listeners. Your thoughts, feedback, reception reports, questions, and comments are all welcome. Send me an email if you're listening. It's the only way that I know that anyone is out there tuned in. VORWINFO@gmail.com. That's VORWINFO@gmail.com. And I'll say the address once more. VORWINFO@gmail.com. Well, thank you for tuning into this radio broadcast of VORW Radio International, the voice of the Report of the Week. Stay tuned. Let's go into a music session. It's coming up next on VORW.